Paradise has a price. I learned that the hard way in Phuket, where crystal blue waters and endless sunshine can blind you to the darkness creeping into your soul. My name is Jay, and this is the story of how Thailand's most beautiful island nearly destroyed me. It's a warning for every man who thinks he can handle the seductive power of this place. Trust me, Phuket doesn't just take your money, it takes pieces of your identity until you don't recognize the person staring back at you in the mirror. I arrived in Phuket 3 years ago with $45,000 in savings and a dream. At 58, I was ready to leave behind the grey skies of Manchester and embrace the tropical lifestyle I'd seen in countless YouTube videos. The plan was simple: rent a nice condo, enjoy the beaches, maybe find some companionship. What could go wrong? Everything. The first month felt like heaven. I rented a modern one-bedroom apartment in Kata Beach for 25,000 baht, about $700. The infinity pool overlooked the Andaman Sea. Every sunset painted the sky in colors I'd never seen in England. Local street food cost pennies. Life was perfect. Then I met Nina. She was serving drinks at a beachside bar in Patong, her smile brighter than the Thai sun. At 26, she was half my age, but when she laughed at my terrible jokes and listened to my stories about life back home, age felt meaningless. We talked until the bar closed, and for the first time in years, I felt truly alive. "Are you different from other Farang?" she said that first night, using the Thai word for foreigner. "You have kind heart." Those words should have been a red flag. In Phuket, being different usually means being vulnerable. If you're enjoying this raw look into expat life, subscribe to the Retired Tales and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Nina became my world within weeks. She quit her bar job. "I know what other men look at me when I have you," she said. I felt honored, masculine, needed. I was her hero, and she was my prize for a lifetime of hard work. We moved in together after 2 months. She decorated our place with flowers and incense, cooked authentic Thai meals that made my taste buds dance. Every morning, I woke up to her gentle touch and broken English whispers of affection. This was the retirement dream I'd imagined. But dreams in Phuket come with hidden costs. The first request seemed innocent. Nina's younger sister, Ploy, needed money for university textbooks, 8,000 baht, about $220. I handed over the cash without thinking. Education was important, right? Nina's eyes filled with grateful tears as she hugged me tight. "You best man in world," she whispered. 2 weeks later, her mother needed surgery. Nothing major, just gallstones, but the family couldn't afford the 35,000 baht hospital bill. Again, I opened my wallet. I was falling in love, and love meant taking care of family. That's what good men do. The pattern was set, though I didn't see it yet. Each request came with tears, genuine gratitude, and promises that it would be the last time. Nina would massage my shoulders after these conversations, cook my favorite pad thai, make me feel like the most generous man alive. By month 6, I'd spent nearly $8,000 on her family's various emergencies, but I was happy. Nina made me feel young again, desired. The sex was incredible. She laughed at all my jokes and made me believe I was building something real. The warning signs were there. I just chose to ignore them. "My cousin Kai, he very smart boy, but no money for computer school," Nina explained one evening as we watched the sunset from our balcony. Her hand traced gentle circles on my chest. "Maybe you help? Just small amount. 15,000 baht." By now I recognized the pattern, the build-up, the sob story, the physical affection. But I was in too deep to care. This was my family now, and families help each other. What I didn't realize was that I wasn't joining a family. I was becoming their personal ATM. Kai's computer course led to his sister needing dental work. The dental work led to grandfather's funeral expenses. The funeral led to rebuilding the family rice farm after floods. Each crisis felt urgent, legitimate, desperate. My $45,000 nest egg was shrinking fast, but I told myself it was an investment in our future. Nina and I talked about marriage, maybe opening a small business together. She had dreams of running a massage shop on the beach. We'd make money together, build a life together. "You make me so happy," she'd say, curled against my chest at night. "I never love anyone like I love you." I believed every word. The requests started coming more frequently. Not just from Nina, but from her extended family who'd learned about the generous Farang dating their daughter. An uncle needed motorcycle repairs, a cousin required medical tests, her aunt's house needed a new roof before monsoon season. I found myself saying yes before hearing the full story. It was easier than seeing disappointment in Nina's eyes or dealing with the guilt that followed any refusal. Plus 5,000 baht here, 10,000 there. It still felt manageable. But Phuket has a way of making manageable problems spiral into disasters. The first major crack appeared during our one-year anniversary dinner. I'd planned something special at a fancy restaurant in Phuket town, complete with champagne and a promise ring. I was ready to propose properly soon. As we clinked glasses, Nina's phone buzzed constantly. She kept checking it, her smile fading with each message. "What's wrong?" I asked. "My brother got, he in trouble. He owe money to wrong people. They say they hurt him if no pay by tomorrow." The amount was staggering, 180,000 baht, about $5,000, more than I'd ever given at once. My savings account, once flush with retirement money, now held less than $18,000. "That's a lot of money, Nina. What kind of trouble?" Her story kept changing. First it was gambling debts. Then it was money borrowed for a failed business. Finally, she admitted he'd been caught dealing drugs and needed to pay off the police to avoid jail. I should have walked away right then. Should have seen that this wasn't love. It was exploitation disguised as romance. But Nina was crying, begging, promising this would be the absolute last time. "If you no help, they kill my brother. You only person who can save him." How do you say no to that? How do you let someone you love suffer when you have the power to help? I transferred the money that night, watching my financial security disappear with a few keyboard clicks. Nina thanked me through tears, promising to make it. It's up to me somehow, but gratitude in Phuket has an expiration date. Life returned to normal for a few weeks. Nina was extra attentive, cooking elaborate meals and suggesting we stay home more often to save money. She seemed genuinely concerned about my finances, even offering to get a job. "You give so much to my family. Now I take care of you," she said. I was touched by her consideration, but something felt off. Her phone still buzzed constantly with messages she wouldn't let me see. She'd disappear for hours, claiming to visit friends or run errands, but never asking me to come along. One afternoon, I decided to surprise her with lunch at a local restaurant she'd mentioned visiting with her friends. I arrived to find her at a corner table, not with girlfriends, but with 3 Western men I'd never seen before. She was laughing, touching one man's arm the same way she touched mine. When she saw me, her face went white. "Jay, what you doing here?" The men looked uncomfortable, clearly not expecting to meet Nina's boyfriend. As I approached the table, I caught fragments of their conversation. Talk of money, arrangements, meeting times. "Who are your friends?" I asked, forcing a smile. The introductions were awkward. John from Australia, Mark from Germany, Steve from Canada. All men in their 50s and 60s, all clearly smitten with Nina's attention. "We just talking about business," Nina explained quickly. "They maybe invest in massage shop I want to open." But their guilty expressions told a different story. That night, I confronted Nina directly. She denied everything, claiming the men were just friends who wanted to help her business dreams. When I pressed harder, she turned the conversation back to my jealousy, my lack of trust, my failure to understand Thai culture. "You think Thai people cannot have friends?" she accused. "You control me like I am prisoner." Her manipulation was masterful. Within an hour, I was apologizing for doubting her, promising to trust her more. She rewarded my submission with passionate lovemaking and whispered declarations of love. But the seed of doubt was planted. And in Phuket's fertile soil of deception, doubt grows quickly. The revelation came through Marcus, a British expat I'd met at a coffee shop in Qatar. He'd been living in Phuket for 5 years and had the weathered look of a man who'd learned hard lessons. "Mate, I hate to be the one to tell you this," he said, showing me photos on his phone. "But that bird you're with, she's working multiple guys." The photos showed Nina with different Western men at various restaurants and beaches around Phuket. In one, she was holding hands with a grey-haired German. In another, she was kissing the cheek of an older American. The timestamps showed these weren't old photos. They were taken over the past few months. "She's got quite the operation going," Marcus continued. "I've seen her with at least 4 different blokes this year. All older expats, all completely besotted." My world tilted on its axis. Everything I thought I knew about our relationship, about love, about Nina herself. It was all a lie. "How long have you known?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "I suspected for months, but I wasn't sure how to tell you. You seemed so happy, and these girls, they're professionals at making. Guys like us feel special." I waited until Nina left for her mysterious errands the next morning, then did something I should have done months ago. I investigated. Her laptop was still logged into Facebook. What I found there destroyed whatever remained of my illusions. Messages with multiple men, all in English far better than she ever spoke with me. Detailed discussions of meeting times, gift expectations, and elaborate stories about family emergencies. The conversation with John Australia was particularly revealing. "Jay give me 180k baht yesterday for brother story LOL. He's so easy, just cry a little bit and he pay everything. Nice. My German guy gave me 200k last week for sick mother story. These old Farang so desperate for young girl they believe anything." There were photos too, intimate photos with different men, screenshots of bank transfers, even a shared document listing all their sponsors and how much each had contributed. I was listed as JUK 420,000 baht total so far. Very emotional, responds to family crisis stories, good for 20-50k per request. My hands shook as I read. Over $12,000. $12,000 of my retirement savings gone, not for love, not for family emergencies, but for an elaborate confidence game that I'd walked into with my eyes wide shut. When Nina returned that afternoon, I was waiting with printouts of everything. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady. Despite the rage burning in my chest, her face went through a series of expressions: surprise, fear, defiance, and finally, cold calculation. "You go through my private things," she accused. "That not right. Neither is lying to someone who loves you." For a moment, her mask slipped entirely. The sweet, broken English-speaking girl I'd fallen for disappeared, replaced by someone harder, smarter, and completely without remorse. "You think you first Farang to fall for Thai girl?" she said, her English suddenly perfect. "You think you special? You just another lonely old man with money." The words hit like physical blows. "Are you not young, not handsome, not smart? Only thing you have is money, and I take it because you stupid enough to give it." She was right about one thing. I had been stupid. Catastrophically, expensively stupid. Nina moved out that night, taking everything I'd bought her and several items that were technically mine. I didn't try to stop her. What was the point? The girl I'd loved had never really existed. The financial damage was devastating. Of my original $45,000, less than $15,000 remained. My monthly pension barely covered living expenses in Phuket, and I'd blown through years of savings in just 14 months. But the emotional cost was worse. I'd given my heart completely, trusted without reservation, and been played by a master manipulator who saw me as nothing more than a wallet with legs. The shame was overwhelming. How could I tell friends back home that I'd been conned by a bar girl? How could I admit that my great retirement adventure had been the expensive lesson in gullibility? Marcus tried to console me over beers at an expat bar in Patong. "Don't beat yourself up too much, mate. Happens to the best of us out here. These girls start learning the game when they're teenagers. You never stood a chance." He was trying to help, but his words only made me feel worse. I wasn't the victim of bad luck. I was the victim of my own desperate need to feel young and desired again. "The thing about Phuket," Marcus continued, "is that it shows you who you really are. Strip away the comfort and familiarity of home, add some tropical sunshine and beautiful women, and most men discover they're not who they thought they were." He was right. Phuket had shown me exactly who I was, a lonely middle-aged man so hungry for affection that I'd ignored every red flag, rationalized every inconsistency, and paid handsomely for the privilege of being deceived. The weeks after, Nina left were the darkest of my life. I barely left my condo, surviving on instant noodles and self-recrimination. The paradise outside my window felt like a mockery. Every couple I saw reminded me of my own foolishness. I considered going back to England with my tail between my legs, but pride and stubbornness kept me in Phuket. This island had broken me, but I wasn't ready to let it win completely. Slowly, painfully, I started rebuilding. I moved to a cheaper apartment in Chalong, cutting my rent in half. I learned to cook Thai food myself instead of eating out. I discovered free activities, hiking trails, public beaches, temple visits. Most importantly, I started connecting with other expats who'd survived their own Phuket disasters. There was Tom, who'd lost his house in a business deal gone wrong. James, who'd been scammed by a gem dealer. Robert, whose Thai wife had disappeared with his life savings. We formed an informal support group, meeting weekly at a cheap local restaurant to share stories and strategies for survival. It wasn't therapy exactly, but it was healing to know I wasn't alone in my stupidity. The first rule of Phuket, Tom explained during one of our dinners, is that if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. The second rule is that everyone here is running some kind of game. Even us? I asked. Especially us. We're here because we're running from something. Bad weather, boring lives, loneliness, failed relationships. The difference is whether we're honest about it. His words stayed with me. What game had I been running? What was I trying to escape when I came to Phuket? The answer wasn't flattering. I'd come to Thailand not for adventure or cultural experience, but because I wanted to feel important again. I wanted to be the rich foreigner, the generous boyfriend, the savior. My ego had been as much my downfall as my loneliness. Recovery. In Phuket isn't linear. Some days I felt strong, independent, wise to the island's tricks. Other days the loneliness would hit like a tsunami, and I'd find myself wondering if any companionship, even fake companionship, was better than none. I made mistakes during this period. I went on a few dates with women from dating apps, always wondering if they were genuinely interested or just saw another potential sponsor. I gave money to a sob story from a motorcycle taxi driver, then felt stupid when I saw him laughing with friends an hour later. But I also had victories. I negotiated a better rate on my apartment lease. I found a part-time job teaching English that gave me purpose and a small income. I started exercising again, swimming in the public pool and walking the beaches at sunrise. Most importantly, I began to understand Phuket not as a paradise or a trap, but as what it really is, a place where people come to reinvent themselves, for better or worse. The island doesn't break men. Men break themselves by trying to be someone they're not in a place that rewards authenticity above all else. One afternoon, about 6 months after Nina left, I was having coffee at a beachside cafe when she walked in with another Western man. He looked to be in his 60s, clearly smitten, hanging on her every word as she told him some story with wide, innocent eyes. Our eyes met across the cafe. For a moment I felt the old anger, the urge to warn her new victim, or confront her about the pain she'd caused me. Instead, I simply nodded and looked away. She was who she was. He would learn what he needed to learn, just as I had. My job was to focus on my own journey, not to rescue others from theirs. After they left, I realized something had shifted inside me. The sight of Nina hadn't triggered the crushing pain it would have months earlier. I wasn't over it completely, but I was healing. 2 years after my awakening, I'm still in Phuket. Not because I'm stuck or afraid to leave, but because I've learned to live here on my own terms. My social circle now consists mainly of long-term expats who've weathered their own storms. We look out for each other, share resources, and provide the kind of genuine community that I'd been seeking when I first arrived. I've had a few relationships since Nina, but they're different now. I'm slower to trust, quicker to spot red flags, and more comfortable with being alone. When I do date, it's with women who have their own income and interests, not those looking for a financial lifeline. My finances have stabilized. Living simply and avoiding the expat traps, I can make my pension stretch comfortably. I have savings again, not much, but enough for emergencies and the occasional trip back to England. The biggest change is in how I see myself. I'm no longer trying to be the generous benefactor or the conquering Western hero. I'm just Jay, a flawed middle-aged man trying to build a meaningful life in a complicated place. Phuket still tests me. Just last month, a young woman at a coffee shop started chatting me up, eventually mentioning that her family needed money for her father's medical treatment. The old me would have reached for his wallet. The new me bought her a coffee, listened to her story with sympathy, and wished her family well without opening my bank account. She disappeared after that conversation, confirming what I already knew. Some things never change in paradise. If you're a man considering retirement or a new life in Thailand, learn from my expensive education. Phuket can be wonderful, but it's not the easy paradise that YouTube videos make it seem. First, understand that you're not just moving to a new place, you're entering a different economic ecosystem where you're automatically seen as wealthy, regardless of your actual financial situation. A modest pension that feels tight back home looks like vast riches to someone earning 15,000 baht per month. Second, be brutally honest about why you're coming. If you're running from loneliness, depression, or failed relationships, those problems will follow you. Tropical sunshine doesn't cure emotional wounds. Third, set boundaries early and stick to them. Decide in advance how much you're willing to spend on others, and don't exceed it, no matter how compelling the sob story. Kindness without limits becomes exploitation. Fourth, build genuine relationships slowly. The most manipulative people are often the most charming initially. If someone seems too perfect, too interested, too grateful for your attention, they probably are. Finally, remember that paradise isn't a place, it's a state of mind. You can find happiness in Phuket, but only if you bring the right expectations and maintain your sense of self. I'm writing this from my balcony in Chalong, watching the sunset paint the bay in shades of gold and crimson. It's beautiful, undeniably so. But beauty isn't enough to build a life on. Phuket taught me that paradise isn't about the absence of problems, it's about having the right problems. The challenges I face now, maintaining friendships, managing my health, finding purpose in retirement, are honest challenges. They're mine to solve, not someone else's to exploit. Would I do it all over again, knowing what I know now? Probably. The pain of being deceived was real, but so was the growth that came from surviving it. I learned things about myself, about human nature, about the difference between love and transaction that I never would have discovered in the safety of my English routine. Nina taught me an expensive lesson, but it was a lesson worth learning. In trying to buy love, I discovered that real connection can't be purchased. In losing my savings, I found something more valuable: self-respect. Phuket can break any man who comes here unprepared, looking for easy answers to complex problems. But for those willing to face hard truths about themselves and their motivations, this island can also rebuild you into someone stronger, wiser, and more authentic. The choice, as always, is yours. The sun has set now, and the lights of Chalong are beginning to twinkle across the water. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new opportunities, new tests of the lessons I've learned. I'm ready for them, because paradise isn't something you find. It's something you create, one honest choice at a time. What's your take on expat life and the challenges it brings? Have you experienced similar situations in your travels or relationships? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps me continue sharing these raw, honest experiences that so many of us face, but rarely talk about openly. Until next time, remember, paradise isn't about finding the perfect place. It's about becoming the right person to appreciate whatever place you find yourself in.